Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Greg Kimball, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Army is Major Clinton Schwartz, AHQ. We warmly welcome the family of Private Oscar Herbert Hart, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and in operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Oscar Hart, who was killed in action while fighting in France during the First World War. Oscar Hart was born in 1889, one of 7 children born to Joseph and Sarah Hart of Wollongong, New South Wales. We know very little of Oscar's formative years, other than he lost his mother at the age of 6 and attended Wollongong Superior Public School. Following the death of his father, Oscar worked as a labourer on the New South Wales Government Railways and was an active member of the North Wollongong Surf Lifesaving Club, where he was well liked by many of its members. Oscar enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in May 1915, and after a period of training at Liverpool, embarked with a reinforcement group for the 4th Battalion the following month, bound for the fighting in the Dardanelles. He joined the battalion on Gallipoli in early August, just 3 days before it went into action against the Ottoman Turks at Lone Pine. Almost immediately, Oscar was wounded in the head by Turkish shrapnel and evacuated to Egypt, where he spent the remainder of the year at the 1st Australian General Hospital. There, he wrote a letter to his siblings describing in his first time in combat. "I have no fear in going back to the front," he said. "I am only sorry all my mates are gone. Out of 150 in my reinforcement group, only 9 of us answered our names at the roll call. The rest are either killed, wounded or missing." Oscar rejoined the battalion in Egypt after the withdrawal from Gallipoli, and as the AIF prepared to embark for France and the fighting on the Western Front. The battalion disembarked at Marseille in March 1916 and made their way north to the relatively quiet nursery sector outside the town of Armentières, where the Australians learnt the rigours and routine of fighting in the new operational theatre. There, the 4th Battalion was involved in nightly patrols of no man's land and conducting trench raids against the Germans, before the battalion was sent to the Somme in early July to participate in the major British offensive then underway there. The 4th Battalion played a critical role in the capture of Pozières, a German-occupied village that dominated the high ground and impeded any further progress towards Thepevelle. On the night of the 22nd of July 1916, Australian troops of the 1st Division assaulted and captured Pozières, following an artillery bombardment that ranked among some of the most concentrated of the war. The infantry overwhelmed the German defences and tenaciously held their positions over the following days as the Germans began bombarding the Australians in their newly won positions. By the time the 1st Division was relieved 3 days later, it had lost over 5,000 men, killed, missing and wounded. Among the 4th Battalion's dead was Oscar Hart, whose body was seen on the battlefield around midnight of 22nd of July. He was 27. Oscar's body was never recovered from the Pozières battlefield, and as such, his name is listed on the memorial at Villers-Bretonneux among the 10,737 Australians killed in France who had no known grave. The news of Oscar's death devastated his brothers and sisters in Wollongong, as well as his workmates at the railway, his Surf Lifesaving Club, and those who fought with him on Gallipoli. On the anniversary of his death 1 year later, his family included the following epitaph, which holds special significance for this last post ceremony today. His king and country called him, the call was not in vain. On Australia's roll of honour, you'll find our dear brother's name. Oscar Hart is listed on the roll of honour on my right among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Oscar Hart, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.